Okay. Well, welcome. We're calling this a bonus edition of Neighboring 101. We are nationwide, and we're joining together today with a longtime member of Neighborhoods USA. Uh, NUSA is the acronym, and certainly Neighborhoods USA has been a wonderful example throughout its 52-year history, or 51-year
Yes.
conference coming up, I think, right?
Yes.
50 plus, we'll say it that way, 50 plus
Okay.
year history of connecting people with their neighborhoods and really reinforcing the importance of neighborhood activity and leadership and involvement. And probably no one knows that better than Elton Gatewood. And Elton's with us today because he has attended, I think we said 48 of the 51 conferences that have ever happened for NUSA. So no one
Yes.
understands the history better than Elton does. So thank you for joining us today, Elton.
And thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share my life experience with NUSA and how I became involved. And it has been a passion to me. And I've been around for, like I said, my first meeting was in 1978. And a lot of stuff is not written, but I'm dealing with a recall, my experience,
Yeah,
and my focus for the future and the history of the past as it relates to me personally. Okay.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, why? I mean, that's probably one of the most important questions, right? You said at the very beginning, why did you get involved with NUSA?
Well, I'm going to start back to about 1974, 75, when the urban renewal in our city changed over to become community development. Uh, I worked for the city of Tacoma for almost 40 years, but I think it was in 74. And as part of that legislation, I think Jimmy Carter was president at that time, they created the Office of Neighborhoods at a federal level. And I had the pledge and opportunity to work with some of the HUD regional directors and Father Baroni, who was in DC, he was over the whole thing, to fashion a real life experience of neighborhoods and what they should be like. So I kind of got hooked into that. And so again, NUSA was founded. Well, let me backtrack from what I hear. A guy named Howard Hallman in DC, he had received a Ford Foundation grant. And people have been neighborhood activists for years, but he and a lady named Judy LaFoon from Kansas City had been talking. And so they said, well, okay, we should try to convene a meeting and an organization that dealt with neighborhoods. And so, as a story has been told to me, they met in Kansas City, Missouri, and created what they called a steering committee. And that was kind of the onslaught of the beginning of Neighborhoods USA. And I think that was in 1974, 1975. I'm not sure of the exact dates. But as a result of that, the momentum caught on and more people began to uh, become involved. And they started having conferences, I think, uh, immediately after they were formally organized. So uh, to me, that was kind of the beginning. And like I started in 1978 with NUSA. And NUSA is a national nonprofit organization. It was built to strengthen neighborhoods organization, and it also continues to encourage networking and information sharing in order to facilitate the development of partnership among neighborhood organizations, government, the private sector, and for the ultimate goal of strengthening neighborhoods throughout the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what I interpret what NUSA was all about. And I have lived NUSA, since my involvement, and it certainly dignifies those thoughts that the early founders had in mind.
Yeah,
Um,
that's and I think one of the early conferences was in Kansas City, right? You mentioned
yes, that was the first steering committee. Uh-huh.
okay.
And I think that was in 1975 or 1976. I'm not sure.
I sure did not realize the connection with the Office of Neighborhoods and the urban renewal movement. That's I hadn't heard that portion before. That's interesting.
Yeah, as part of that legislation, cities that were receiving HUD monies were required as part of the process to provide a citizen participation plan for the city that was receiving those funds.
Mm, mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
at that time, I was an urban planner with the city of Tacoma, and I felt there was an opportunity to engage people on a one-to-one, real-life basis. Uh, and in government, we fulfill the requirements, but it did not meet what I considered as being a citizen participation. We would hold meetings and we would hearing, and that was a form of participation. We'd go back to City Hall and we thought we knew what was best for the people. So it became a real thing at that time, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
I just jumped on it and I actually, you know, I liked people and I had lived as a kid in Memphis growing up. And I thought it was important to ask people what they wanted as opposed to dictate as we, as being professional planners, knew what was best for them. So I was trying to make it real, you know.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, what do you remember from that first conference or two that you attended? Was it a large organization from the beginning, or did it take time to catch on? Or
I thought it took time to catch on because, like I said, we had the whole federal support and cities were complying with those kinds of things. And neighborhood was a buzzword, you know.
mm-hmm.
Uh, I recall the onset of introducing that concept that cities were suspicious of federal government getting involved, and those people they call community organizers, they were socialists, beware, beware, beware. And so it had to have a mindset that we can do this together.
Yeah.
Uh, there are seats at the table for government. There are seats at the table for regular, everyday citizens, as government used to call it, those people. Yeah, I used to laugh at that because it's not those people. You were one of them. You just had a different position in life.
Yeah.
And so we lived through that with some degree of uncertainty and suspicion of each other. And my personal mission, and I took it personal, that people could coexist within the same framework. And so even my city at that time was a little uncertain. And I often laugh and tell people that I practice neighborhoods without a license for the city of Tacoma. Like I said, neighborhoods was the buzzword, and they were all for complying to get that HUD money, but was it uh, meet the intent of what was established by the federal government in terms of the citizen
Hmm.
participation plan? So the city sanctioned me to do that with caution. And I attended one or two of the NUSA meetings, and I saw that people had some of the same challenges that I had trying to introduce it to the city of Tacoma, the whole real meaty concept of neighborhood involvement and civic engagement. And so I had to look at the environment in which I was working in, which was the city of Tacoma. I had to balance off the political implications and the real life true meaning of citizens' involvement, that it meant something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and during those conferences that I attended, I met some people from different cities who were dealing with the same problem, and we were able to share information. And so, what I did, I gathered as much information from other people as I could and fashioned our program in the city of Tacoma to fulfill the needs in the environment in which I was working in. And I'm proud to say successful today. 2026 is still going strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were an early pioneer then when I just, when you combine that federal component and then this news
Mhm.
organization that started and just kind of a new field of work, um, I think we could say that you were an early pioneer in all of that. And I love the
Well,
fact that you've stayed with it.
there were many people before, these are lessons learned. A lot of stuff we can read in books and stuff like that. But the new term with the boots on the ground, I was there. I had
Yeah.
been a moderate neighborhood activist prior to starting with the city, but in the 60s and 70s, uh, it was confrontation oriented. And I believe in diplomacy, you know, and I believe in confrontation as being my last resort.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And and my thing is, you know, establishing a relationship with people, establishing cooperation, uh, and learn how to collaborate. And so everybody falls into a win-win situation if they have time and patience to do that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
But NUSA has been really helpful to me and the people that I've met and the information that I've learned. And see, there's nothing new under the sun, really. Uh, what you're doing in Missouri, somebody else is doing somewhere else. And by meeting at these conferences, as an example, you can gather information that you can so-called um, use to fulfill the needs that you have in your community also.
Yeah. Well, I've always found when, in attending the live conferences that it was encouraging, really, to meet other people doing similar work and to, yeah, you could share ideas and learn from each other, but ultimately it was pretty encouraging to be surrounded by people that had shared interest as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's been an inspiration to me. And I think when I was chairperson, president, whatever you want to call a person, we were having people internationally that was interested. And I coined the phrase global hood. I think I was in Japan, and I don't know how I came up with that word. And I had gone over there because they had sent some uh, a delegation here, and we had had some from Sweden, from South Africa, from the Philippines. But it was a hot button, and it
Yeah.
still is hot buttons, although governments internationally different, but the needs are the same, universal in terms of people want safe homes, food, clothes, shelter. Regardless of where you live, the response or the answer is the same. And so we had a flurry of that. That is kind of now we got a lot of people coming in from the Bahamas, and things are a little slower now than they were because we'll look at the economy of what government is doing and things like that. So neighborhoods have their ebbs and tides. They're up and they're hot. And then once issues are resolved, sometimes we go into a kind of skeleton mode, but we still exist and we can rise to the occasion. But the impotence behind my involvement has been the people that I've met and the lessons that I've learned uh, based upon real life experiences. You know.
Yeah. So if you meet a person that's new to community development, somebody they've just been hired by a city and they're working in urban development, community development,
Mhm.
why would you encourage them to attend NUSA?
Well, I think it would give a broader perspective
Mm,
about what neighborhoods are all about. It also, in terms, provide um, food for thought for them to continue their efforts. This thing we call democracy, it's just it's a practice. It's not a really a true democracy as it intended to be. It's forever growing and strengthening if we allow that to happen. And so, as part of that, we have the right as people to decide our own destiny as best as we can by being actively involved. Uh, I don't get into the political arena of stuff, but just in real life, as I look at neighborhood and community building, it's almost as old as existence in itself.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't want to get off the deep end on this, but I envision it's something the animal kingdom how ants work together to build moles. I look at the human body as an example of how the systems in the body work together to make the human function. And the same thing as in neighborhoods, everybody has something to contribute to the better good of what we're working towards, which are safer and healthier communities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Uh, we have, and I have courage, outreach of a greater outreach of representation with NUSA, geographically, ethnically, age, gender, and whatever. Because if we are a national organization, we need to be representative of the nation as best we
Mm-hmm,
can.
mm-hmm. Sure.
And if we can
Sure.
provide that as an avenue for people to participate and learn from each other, it makes the world better and make neighborhoods better and cities better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are there some other highlights that come to your mind from over the years of the various gatherings of NUSA?
Yeah, one that I take pride in. In 1984, we had it here in Tacoma, and we introduced the Neighborhood of the Year Award.
Oh,
And that we were involved, and then I don't know whether I was on the board or we had representation in NUSA, and we introduced that Neighborhood of the Year Award program, and it has been one of the highlights of the conferences.
yeah, it absolutely has been. And so, here's Neighborhood of the Year, and there's Neighborhood Program of the Year, I think,
Yeah.
right? And different size categories, and the
Hmm.
just the whole awards program is very um, robust and a great opportunity to share about what you're doing. And um, I don't know the number of participants every year, but um, it's been
Yeah.
really cool to learn to hear what other people are doing. And those are really like top examples to learn from. And you
Mhm.
probably wouldn't know about them otherwise, if not that awards
Right.
program.
Yeah, well, we initiated that in '84, and we began to add on new different awards programs. So the whole award program has morphed to be the one of the highlights of the conference. But
Yeah.
more important to that is that the people that attend, some are new, some have been around for a while, and it's to innovate and encourage people to become more actively involved and be an agent of change with their respective city.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've already said that Tacoma, the year that you all hosted, was one of the memorable things. Any other uh, destination city that you'd say is in your top two or three best conferences from over the years?
I don't like to compare one against the other,
Yeah, I
but
tried to put you in a hot seat there.
no, but I'm going to say this. I think Madison, Wisconsin, and Phoenix, Arizona, when we
Hmm.
had somewhere like 1,200 people
Yeah.
at those 2 years of conferences, and to me that was all of them have been good, but in terms of numbers, if I can recall correctly, Madison, Wisconsin, and Phoenix, Arizona. I think Phoenix must have been. Can't remember. Oh, that was in 2000. And Madison was in 1999. And so I guess uh, those are the highest attended conferences that I can recall. You know,
Wow. Well,
but all
yeah,
of them have been good. There's something in there for everybody, whether you a newcomer or you've been around for a while. You can always pick up something new and fashion it according to what your needs are in your respective city.
yeah, those are both great examples. And that, well, let's see, was it Fort Worth in 2020 that had to be canceled
Right,
because of
because of
COVID?
that's correct. Yeah.
Um, but here this coming year, some of it's going to kind of be broadcast from Memphis, but it's really online for 2 days, which is again a different type of approach, trying different types of
Right.
things. So uh, just just a different approach. So it'll be exciting to see how that gets pulled together.
Yeah, we're willing to try. As the economic conditions and other conditions, uh, once they balance themselves off, uh, I hope I'm not alone. That I really like the in person conferences. I think the virtual is full of good information, but to me, this is a personal thing. I like the interaction of people. You know,
Sure,
And
sure.
so hopefully we will return next year to an in-person conference. But we decided, because of the economic conditions and instability, from DC that uh, people may not be able to attend and travel and do things like that. So we're going to give it a try. But hopefully next year in 2027, we will be back in person again.
I know from the years that I've attended, some of the tours have
Hmm.
been the most memorable aspect of that. Just really an afternoon to see other neighborhoods, other examples. I thought the conference in El Paso was great,
Uh-huh.
and that the tour that I was on was just really uh, memorable for me. It was stuff I had not seen or experienced before or had any knowledge of. It was just a great. I think every year the tours have been meaningful to me. That one just really
Hmm.
stands out. But you're right that especially that tour portion,
Yeah.
um, you can't really
And
replicate that online. But
mhm.
um, hopefully we can in the future.
Yeah, well, the mission is still the same. We want to bring people together. And like I said, in a way that we can, but preferably in person, if conditions economically and otherwise allow us to continue to do that. But this comes as a one-stop shop for this time, hopefully, and we'll see what the momentum has in
Yeah.
the future. But
Well, it's
I get so excited when I talk about NUSA, and I could go on for an hour. I know for hours
well,
because.
well, you can go right. You can go right ahead. I love your passion for that, and just um, are there some other reasons? I mean, it certainly was important to your career and things, but are there some other reasons you have this um, passion for NUSA?
Yeah, I guess I do have a passion because, like I said, early childhood was not the greatest thing. It was great for me uh, in a way, but looking at society and how it approached things, that people decided things for me without asking me, which is a
Mm,
common courtesy.
mm,
And it relates to government. We think, as a past city employee, retired, uh, we thought we knew what was best for those people, whoever those people are. It's one of those words that I used to despise when I hear it, without asking them. And it's a common courtesy, And there are no losers. There are always a win-win situation if you uh, address it the right way, and everybody has a sense of appeasement. We're following government regulations, and we are following input from the citizens. And to me, this kind of glorifies the whole notion of citizen engagement that makes a difference. And people feel good about being able to have input and then see the results of that input. So it becomes more of a human thing to me, as well as a government thing. You know, when I worked for government, no, I could not bite off the hand that fed me, but I could deliver for the people that I love and did not know how to navigate through the governmental system.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
see, I kind of learned from the bottom up, you know. Uh, we can be academians, but in real life is different. And several years ago, 20 years ago, I call it several years ago or so, I partnership with the University of Washington in Tacoma to create the Government Leadership Institute. The notion behind that was to bring uh, real government into the classroom. And by that, I mean that I would be teaching a class on government finance. It reads good in the book, but then I had the opportunity to bring the finance director to the class to do a lecture about that. So you had the academic and you had the practical. So those students were became a little more well-rounded in terms of government uh, vernacular and nomenclature and stuff like that. So I just believe in making it real and effective and respectful to, all people. You know, it's the socioeconomic conditions, as far as I'm concerned, uh, it helps people to understand why certain things exist. So, but NUSA has been kind of the foundation, in addition to my life experiences, as to why I'm so passionate about civic engagement or citizen participation or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
What are your I mean, like you have lots of years of history in this organization. So, what are you hoping for the future of NUSA? What what are you uh, hoping that comes out of this effort to continue having conferences, and getting people together? Um, what would help you at some point say, "Wow, this has really been worth the effort. The next generation's catching on to this idea, whatever that might be." How do you see it playing out into the future, I guess?
well, I'm willing to share that because that's my concern. Those are my wishes. We need a new generation of people. I've tried to act as a mentor to the board. Uh, we can put the organization in place, but it takes people to run the organization. We've been a little slack on getting people to run for the board. I know people's lives are busy, you know, but see, we all live, work, pray, and play in a neighborhood. So we don't need to put that on the complete back burner, but we need to establish somewhere in our lives a priority to uh, engage people at all levels and make it an environment, the neighborhood and the organization environment where everybody feels welcome, feel wanted, and can be contributed to uh, their community and to the national organization. So to kind of cut it short is that I would hope that the organization, and I'm still on the board, and I emphasize this, that we would be more representative geographically and otherwise, and that we would encourage younger people uh, to become engaged and become active and spread the word. So I see a future. You know, I'm no teenager, so uh, so I hope I hope I share the same vision with some of the board members, and we should work towards that. And when I have exited uh, uh, the whole scene, I would like for it to continue to be a legacy to what democracy should be about.
Sure. And that's getting younger generation involved is something a lot of organizations are talking about, and some are more frustrated about it than others. Um, it's a challenge. It is,
Mhm.
but NUSA has really, provided a platform, a way to have quality conferences, like you said, and to really, I think networking is a big part of that organization. Um, Meeting people that are like-minded. I would guess that you've been at this long enough that you've probably made some real friendships within NUSA, and um, maybe some of the people you have the most contact with are because of NUSA. Is that is that fair to say?
That is absolutely correct. I got a cigar box full of cards that I've accumulated over years. I've made established personal contact relationship with people. And if you were to call me today and say, well, Elton, I got this problem, blah, blah, blah. I said, hold on a minute. And I looked through my little index and I said, Sam Jones in Tupelo, Mississippi has the same problem. Why don't you guys connect and he can explain to you what they have done and
Yes.
so I've kind of been um, I don't know what I want to call myself, but I have tried to help people share their knowledge with other people. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that networking has been key to me. Uh, at any given time, you ask the questions, well, how do you know so much? I don't know anything that nobody didn't tell me. It's not my original idea. Okay. And so you call this guy who has lived that and walked that and had success in that. So you guys establish a connection. And it goes on and on and on. It's an evolutionary kind of thing.
Yeah. I think some people call that being a connector, I think is the popular thing to call that.
I've been
So,
called worse, but anyway,
but yeah, you certainly are a connector, helping uh, people find the right person to ask a question of, and keeping track of who's who. I've noticed you're very good with names, it seems like, um, and that's interesting that you give that example of helping point people in the right direction for help. That's an important skill. It's a helpful skill for sure.
well, I decided I can't take it to the grave with me. I might as well just let somebody take it and run with it. But I've had such a marvelous time with NUSA and continue to have a marvelous time. And there's some new people, hopefully new people, younger people, and it needs some tweaking. Nothing is perfect, but I think it's the best thing that I've immersed myself into. I talked to some people several years ago, and they said, we go to different conferences, and the lady said, NUSI is the best conference I've ever been to because it crossed so many bridges and provides so much information.
Yeah.
And so, matter of fact, I've been trying to encourage the board to look at it. She said, you guys should have conferences within conferences. And I asked her, what do you mean by that? They said, you got a housing conference there, but you also have a workshop on housing. So why don't you dump them all in one thing? But see, people don't want to give up turf either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can understand that. But that was a nice notion, and it may be something that they will look at in the future. But, humans, you're dealing interacting with humans, and humans don't want to give up what they have. So
Well,
that's
I yeah,
the thing. They can collaborate with those people. So,
yes. And I loved your emphasis earlier. You mentioned, find opportunities for win-win situations in neighborhoods.
oh yeah.
And it's not because that is the easier route to take.
Hmm.
Many times that's the more challenging route to take. Wouldn't you say?
I think so. But see, the end result is that everybody has a sense of appeasement.
Mm,
There are no 100% winners. You call it win-win, but everybody gets something out of it.
yeah, yeah,
And it's a diplomacy, that whole notion of working with human beings and neighborhood folks, there's got to be a certain level of um, diplomacy. I remember when I was working, the first thing I would go to a meeting and I'll say, what are your thoughts? I'm talking to the general public. And see, I want to know what they're thinking because in City Hall, we may all be all wrong. You know, I live here, but I'm talking to a neighborhood across town. I don't live in that neighborhood, they do.
mm,
So
mm,
my first thing is say, the city is proposing to do this and another. What are your thoughts? And you'd be surprised at category, some negative, some positive, and some scratching their head. Oh, that may not be a bad idea.
yeah,
But I've been very pleased with NUSA. I've been very pleased with my involvement in neighborhood. Uh, I've often felt that success is not an option. You give it your best, and I'm one person. Other people may think differently, and that becomes their choice. But I'm committed to people first of all, committed to the neighborhood, and in my own spiritual way, and I won't get into that fact of my life, uh, that's what it's all about. You only pass this way but once.
yes, yeah. Well, that's a recipe for not just being a good community development specialist or uh, a neighborhood specialist, but it's also the recipe for being a good neighbor on an
Right.
individual
Right.
level.
Mhm.
So,
And I'm not gonna talk forever, but uh, politicians or elected officials, they're great. Most of them are great, but the problem is that they don't feel some of the same pain the everyday citizen feel. And
yeah,
a lot of them change the politics for casual reasons, because
mm,
they're really concerned, or because they want power, because their ego, and all that's good for them. But is it good for the people they're supposed to serve? And I don't, and I see things in a different perspective, both as a citizen, both as an activist, and both as a past uh, government employee. And I think they all three can merge and everybody can benefit
yeah.
from those. So,
Well, this has been a great opportunity to visit and catch up and glean some knowledge from your experience. And it's also an opportunity to share out to our networks about NUSA. For I often talk about Neighborhoods USA, but this is another opportunity to do so, and at least this time of year, reminding people that the conference for NUSA is coming up. Now, this year in 2026, it is a virtual conference, May 28th and 29th. And we really encourage people to go online to nusa.org and get registered. I'll put that in the notes for the video as well here, but that's a big part of it. We hope people will take advantage of that online learning opportunity and try that out this year. So I hope.
well, I would also like to compliment you. You have done an excellent job. I've only known you for about 3 or maybe 4 years at the most. And you have been a godsend to NUSA in terms of the things that you have done for NUSA and the things that you do there in Missouri. So you need to be commended. And I hope that you will always continue to be a part of the movement for NUSA and for neighborhoods and for better cities and states. So I go without saying that you are doing an excellent job. And I want to let you know that personally. And I've gotten to know you not as well as I would like to, but you're an asset to the whole movement.
Well, I appreciate that. You've always been very kind every time we have talked and visited, and appreciate your. Well, I really value your experience and your historical perspective. I love that part. I think it's important to know context and things, but it's pretty apparent that your heart's in the right place for this, and
Yeah,
I
well,
really commend that.
I tell them all the time, yeah, I live in a neighborhood, but I don't have a real horse in the race in terms of mobilizing and gathering people. It's just a passion that I have that
Yeah,
got me in that direction.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna bring the recording to an end, but thank you for your time, Elton, and appreciate the opportunity here.
And thank you, and I'm honored to be part of your program, Neighbors 101. And so keep up the good work, and if there's anything that I can do to assist you know, in any way, please let me know. Feel free to call
I
24/7.
I certainly will.